Okay. Start 1. Okay. So, oh, 1 failed. I have to turn off. Okay, we're on YouTube. The Twitch one is failing because the YouTube is failing on Restream. So let me just turn off YouTube on Restream. This is really annoying. Edit destinations. We're going to turn off YouTube, and then we're going to start 1 again. Come on, come on, come on, come on. No! What? Why? Why not? Okay. Or should we ditch Twitch?
Do we have any Twitch viewers at the
Twitch
moment?
Twitch is our worst platform by far. Like basically no one watches on Twitch.
Okay, we are ditching Twitch. It seems.
All right, we're ditching Twitch. Sorry, Twitch, for the night. I mean, you can't even watch video on demand past like a month anyway, so it's not like things get saved onto there. So
our title is Part 2: How Understanding Myers-Briggs Personalities Helps Write Characters.
Okay, that was the last time I had to manually do it. Okay, that's it. That was it for me for the news segment. So we can hop into the music segment while I make the stream look not terrible. Are we good with that? Okay. All right, here we go.
Mixed Media Music.
Hello, and welcome to Mixed Media Music. Kind of after a little bit of a technical problems. So just to reintroduce ourselves, I'm Ben Costello. I'm a flute player and media composer living in Los Angeles. And I am kind of the host of Mixed Media Music, the portion of the always interesting podcast Mixed Media, where my co-hosts and I talk about things related to our particular fields of art, but also things that are kind of tangential to that. And Mixed Media Music, obviously, we focus on music with a particular emphasis on classical and media music, but also anything else that might come up. So before we get started, I'll let my co-hosts introduce themselves.
So my name is Irving. I'm a filmmaker and media entrepreneur based out of Mount Carmel, Pennsylvania. I own a company called Ariella.
And I'm Nathan Nestor. I'm a 3D modeler and game developer.
Okay, so before we get started on our main topic tonight, which is talking a little bit about not quite the Oscars, but in particular the winner of the best score for Oscar award for best score last Sunday, I guess. Just a little bit of somewhat related music news, which we didn't get to in our last segment. Just quickly, I saw today that Christoph Beck is officially really embracing the Marvel superhero world. Christoph Beck, of course, the composer, probably most notably of the Frozen films. But he is really, so he's also the 3 Ant-Man films. He just did the score for Shazam, which just came out. And he is apparently doing something called new announcement is doing some Marvel thing called Agatha Coven of Chaos. Don't ask me what that is. I have no idea. He also did the score for WandaVision and Hawkeye. So I think this is supposed to be another Disney Plus show. Anyway, it seems like that's what he's going all in for, not just Marvel, but because Shazam is not Marvel, right? I don't even know.
No, that's DC.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But so really going all in on the superhero stuff, which is pretty far away from Frozen.
Yeah. Was Frozen his first major thing, or?
as far as I know, it's the first like truly significant thing he did.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I personally find that interesting. Anyway, on to the Oscars. So I didn't watch it. Honestly, I wanted to listen to some more of the scores, but I didn't have as much time as I wanted to. But I did. So Victor Bertelmann, I think that's how you pronounce his name, German composer, won the best score for All Quiet on the Western Front. And I wasn't even planning on watching it. I just wanted to watch something the other night. So I pulled up Netflix, and it was like the first suggestion that came up. I'm like, fine, I'll watch it. You know, I know it just won the Oscar best score. So I can't directly compare it to the other scores because I haven't heard them. But I want to give some thoughts on the score for All Quiet on the Western Front, and then just kind of tie that into something I said maybe 3 weeks ago or so, and reflect a little bit on the state of film music in 2023. Okay, so the film itself, I honestly was not that impressed with. I know it won a bunch of awards at all sorts of international and American film awards. I think it also won the BAFTA award for best score as well, amongst other things. I don't know. Personally, I was not impressed by the film. Now, maybe that's a function of having seen too many war, in particular World War I films in the past like 3-ish years. There's, I guess, 1917, which I watched. I think it was the last film I watched before the pandemic started. The last film I watched in a theater before the pandemic started. Last year I watched War Horse, which is a John Williams scored, a little bit more family friendly, but not that family friendly. World War I film with the horse as kind of the protagonist, I guess, but still in that same realm. And then not a World War I film, but a couple of weeks ago we were talking about Come and See, and the non-use of music, or the limited but very effective use of music in that film. So that's a World War II film, but you know, we're in the same realm. So here we have another World War I film with kind of an overarching like war is bad kind of message, I would say. But it's like in very general terms. Now, of course, this is loosely based on the actual German novel, although I've never read All Quiet on the Western Front. But I understand there are some significant departures from the actual novel, but loosely based on the novel. But I don't know. I just didn't find the film itself impressive or really that affecting. It went on like a little bit, like, I guess in contrast, well, maybe not so much in 1917, but in contrast to like War Horse and Come and See, it took the route of like, let's be a little bit gory and like show a lot of blood kind of stuff and a lot of corpses, mutilated corpses. And I don't know. There's only so much of that that's like effective. Like I think I preferred 1917, because it took a first person point of view, and also Come and See, which is just so different in what it's trying to achieve, and like it goes out of its way to not be bloody but still be horrifying. So I don't know. There's only a limited amount. Like if I'm going to sit through 2.5 hours of seeing a bunch of like dead bodies and a lot of blood, I mean, I kind of get the point after a while, you know. Like I don't know. I mean, it wasn't like a bad film. It kind of exemplifies musically what I was saying is kind of like the negative trend of like using little music, but not really having a purpose. Now, So my first takeaway is I'm really not sure why this score won Best Score. I mean, again, I haven't heard the other scores that were nominated, but the music had almost no role in the film. Now, to be fair, I find that I'm not the best at like noticing a ton of subtlety about music the first time I see something, unless it's like really good and I'm supposed to notice it. Other people that I know are much better at like they've watched something like one time and they're like, wow, did you hear all of these things with the themes? I'm like, no, I didn't even know there was music in that scene. I'm not.
Is
So
it
I'm not
because
the
of
best.
the mix levels and stuff like that, or is it just like having to take in so much information all at once kind of thing?
I think it depends on the film. Like, I noticed this the other week when I was watching the most recent episode of The Mandalorian, Star Wars, where like I would notice music in certain parts where there like isn't a lot of dialogue or other sound going on, like when music has a larger role in the narrative. But if it doesn't have a larger role in the narrative, and I'm likely the first time I watch something to kind of miss some of the subtleties, and like, but other people who aren't even musicians we're all talking about like, wow, isn't it so cool that like in this one particular scene, he kind of the composer quoted something from March of the Resistance, episode 7. I'm like, what? Like, I did not notice that at all. I course I went back and listened to it immediately. Like, oh yeah, it's right there. But like, I did not notice that at all. So, but honestly, the music, in All Quiet on the Western Front, to me, it falls into two categories, maybe three. One is the incredibly obvious 3-note kind of Brahm for effect, I guess, for lack of a better term. Now, Brahm, of course, being the famous Hans Zimmer first used
Yes.
in the Inception. It's kind of a similar sort of thing. It's a 3-note, bomb, 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 that occurs. Well, it's used like twice. In each of the 2 times it's used, it's kind of repeated like I think 3 times, and it's like right at the beginning of the film, and maybe like a third of the way through the film. That is very obvious, very on the nose, and to me, it really takes you out of the film immediately because it just does not sound like it fits in with the setting where we're really trying to immerse ourselves in 1917 and 1918 Germany and the front line in France.
Let me ask you a question. Is it just so I can get a better idea of the film itself, is it like more is there a lot of dialogue, or is it more just like visual? Like, are there like more main character type things, or is it just kind of like following like, the whole?
Yeah, they're like, there's one main character and there are a bunch of side characters, and we kind of learn all of their fates progressively. There are some moments of like nice dialogue in it, and a lot of like action set pieces, so to speak. I don't know. There's like I can't really point to anything that's like bad in that in and of itself. I just didn't feel like it like was affected me in any way. Really, I don't know. So we have this incredibly heavy like you're supposed to feel like the screen shaking, and it feels almost a little bit too heavy-handed because after that, outside of those 2 moments. Which is supposed to give us this kind of sense of impending dread, I think. But it just sounds too futuristic. It sounds too much like a sci-fi kind of like horror, like warning. Like this is a really terrible regime that devalues the lives of its own youths. That's the point of it. Which is all true, but it's thereafter the music is really not present. Now, when I pulled up the official soundtrack and started listening to it, I was kind of surprised to see that there was 58 minutes of music, like 24 tracks. And I'm sure there's probably a little bit of extra music that's in the film, too, that isn't on the official soundtrack. Now, so I was surprised that there's that much music in there. But really, if you look at like where the music occurs in the film, it's there, I guess, but it's so buried under all of the sounds of everything else in the mix. So it's relatively, not a ton of music like compared to the runtime of the film. If it's like we'll say 58 minutes to like it's a 2.5 hour film, so less than 50% of the film has music. So it feels kind of empty, but there's also an impression of greater emptiness because there's so much of so much of the place of the space where music actually is there. It's so buried under all these people screaming and cannons firing and people being blown up, whatever, that it functionally isn't there. Like it's just not there, and it's not high enough in the mix to even notice that there's music, and so it's not contributing anything. And moreover, it's all really ambient, but like not ambient to me, my ears in a way that like creates any sort of mood that we don't already get from seeing a bunch of young men get blown up and shot, essentially, or dying in trenches.
See, my thought would be that if you're going for like the gore and stuff, the music can do what the visuals can't do, which is maybe take you into the psychology of the men or something like that.
Right.
But
and
yeah.
So like if we want to contrast this with the three other films that I've I didn't really talk about War Horse, but War Horse, really gorgeous John Williams score. Now, again, the point is a little bit different. It's kind of supposed to be about like the friendship of this boy and his horse, even though they get separated, and the horse and the boy separately witness all sorts of terrible, stuff in the war, but they get reunited at the end. Really beautiful score, though, and like it in a typical John Williams fashion, he allows the orchestra to kind of do what you were just saying. Like the music kind of gives us the psychological, especially from the eyes of a horse. Like the horse can't verbalize what it is seeing, the horrors of watching its fellow horses getting blown up and whatever. But the music is kind of, especially the flute, which I like because I'm a flute player, but I think I would like it even if I weren't a flute player. It's really gorgeous. That kind of acts as like the internal voice of the horse. 1917. Music is way more present, and in particular in like the kind of climactic scene in the middle where it's just music. Like we've gone through like an hour and a half of continuous shot. Finally, like get darkness, it cut, and then the character wakes up, and it's just a beautiful scene. No words and just music. He's walking through like the rubble, and everything's on fire. Really beautiful, really effective score right there. Now the final scene is a little bit of like, he gets to the final scene and somebody tells Thomas Newman, well, you actually have to quote, you basically have to rewrite Thin Red Line, and he does. He just takes it up like a half step, and okay, so forget that. But in the rest of it, music really does take a very prominent role in this kind of first-person narrative, especially because it's truly like first-person. We basically are almost just like seeing it from the main character's eyes, and there the music kind of can act in a way, because especially because most of the film, the main character is by himself, wandering through no man's land. So he doesn't have anybody to talk to, so the music kind of is that voice. And you can see all my thoughts on music and the lack of music in Come and See. But to me, the music just didn't feel like it served any purpose other than those two moments where we get this really ominous 3-note, Brahm kind of thing. And so I think even if the music were more present in the mix, I'm not sure what it would add. It just kind of seems like it's ambience for the purpose of there being music, even though the music doesn't even show up really sonically. So I don't know. It like I'm okay with ambiance and atmosphere, but it should add something. And I just don't see what this score added, in terms of the impact of the film, the themes of the film, the emotions. I don't know what it added. I mean, I'm sure it seemed competently written, but I'm not sure, is that like the standard for best score? But it's just like, I'm sure I haven't heard of a John Williams score for The Fabelmans, but I guarantee you it was competently written. Um, so I'm really not sure what that says about film scores in 2022 2023. But as a side note, I got to the last track, and then I didn't. It just went on to autoplay my YouTube music, and I didn't even notice if the next track was like not from that I had reached the end of the final track of All Quiet on the Western Front, and it started a completely new album. It sounded exactly the same to me. This kind of somewhat kind of, I don't want to say pointless ambiance, but like non-distinctive ambiance. And I looked and I saw that I was now on a completely different album, and it was something called The King, which I thought this was a really funny description. This is another Netflix show from 2019, scored by Nicholas Britell.
Is it a film or
it's a Netflix show?
Oh, Netflix I saw a movie called The King on Netflix.
I think it's a show. I guess it's a film. Never mind.
Okay, so I've seen it.
Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's scored by Nicholas Britell, who I actually think is a pretty good composer. We've talked about him several times on this show. And I like how in the notes to the description, description of the official soundtrack, it says that Britell approached a futuristic music set in the 25th century, despite the film being a film set in the medieval period. Now, what does that mean? What is the music of 2400s? I don't know. What is the music of the 25th century? What does that even mean?
I don't know.
I don't know. Well, anyway. Now, this is not from the one track, but I guess I got all the way onto the third track before I noticed that I was on a different album, just from the autoplay. So I guess that's bad. I couldn't tell any distinction between The King and is World War I film. Now, this is not like a lot of Nicholas Britell that I'm familiar with, but so it sounded exactly the same. It sounded completely indistinguishable from like a lot of other things. And I was just thinking to myself, what does this say? So this is another Netflix movie, right? And it's a historical piece, just like it's like All Quiet on the Western Front, right? Netflix original film, historical piece based somewhat on literature, right? I guess The King is loosely based on the the Shakespeare Henry plays.
Yes. And
then I opened up Netflix and I saw as a suggestion again that the second season of Vikings Valhalla came out, and I watched the first season, I think this past summer, and I talked a little bit about it. I think that Trevor Morris who did the score, and I thought like the show wasn't awful, nor did I think that the score was bad, but again, just like completely not an entity in the show. So I guess to me, what I'm picking up on is that these Netflix historical pieces seem to all have like the same music. I don't know why this is. You have completely different composers, right? Trevor Morris, Nicholas Britell, and I don't know anything else, by Bertelman, but they all sound the same to me, is pretty much. So I don't know if it's just like a defining thing. Like this
Oh no, you're breaking up.
Yeah.
is a film.
Well, you
or
broke up a little bit. Repeat your last sentence.
Yeah.
Oh, so I suspect the fact we have like 3 very different composers. It seems to me that, like, the music for these shows and movies is just completely indistinguishable. And I don't know if that's like that's just telling us that is the sound of a Netflix original historical piece.
Yeah. Post says in the chat, he says, sounds like they're running out of ideas. It's probably more of a trend thing, like you were saying. Like, people are being forced to chase down a trend for whatever reason.
Yeah, and this goes back to what I was saying. This goes back to what I was saying a couple of weeks ago when I was talking about like the lack of music, where even if the literal like amount of music isn't that low, in any of these projects, the music doesn't seem to be present, and I miss the fact that it's even there, because it's like buried under everything else, all the other sounds, and it's of no consequence even when it is present. Yeah. And I don't really like that trend, whether that's just like it's being assisted by this Netflix historical piece sound. It doesn't sound. I would rather you give me a score that has a little bit more life to it, that like actually adds something. Like, if you're gonna make a show about Henry V or about I can't think of what the name of the battle is, but like one of these really important early British battles between the Vikings. It's like a big part of Vikings Valhalla. Like, what happened? How does it hurt you to have an orchestral score, or like a score that doesn't sound like whatever the 25th century music sounds like?
I really don't know what that means. I'm curious.
But I don't know. My impression is that's what Netflix wants in these things that are about history, even history that's like almost 1,000 years old.
Here's my question though. Like, why would you pay someone probably a decent amount of money to make something so generic? What, you might as well just have the AI do it, right? At that point, you might as well just like have the AI make something super generic and just slap it on there. Like, why spend the money to make like, why pay any named composer? You could just hire some dude, like, and just have them make something generic. I never understand this waste of money, it sounds like to me. When it comes to these sorts of cookie cutter things.
I'm not sure. So if anyone out there listening or watching, if you know more about any of these scores than I do, and you can help me understand some of the subtleties that I'm missing, or tell me that I'm not approaching them the right way, please do tell me or let me know, because I'm not very thrilled about this kind of this sort of trend. I think it's a broader trend than just Netflix and historical pieces, but it seems like that's where it's really noticeable to me right now.
Yeah, I did have a question because a few things clicked in my head, because you had said there were like the Brahms in there, and it's a German film. Does the composer have any relation to Zimmer, specific, like more directly? As maybe
That's a great question. I don't really know anything about the composer, so let me just quickly look him up and see what it says about him. Let's see. Soundtrack.net. Wikipedia. Okay. Yeah, he was originally part of a hip-hop duo called God's Favorite Dog.
Oh, okay.
then he started doing some stuff with prepared piano, and mostly just kind of improvising with that sort of stuff. How did he get involved in film scoring? Again, playing with some bands. Okay. Oh, he did a collaborative album with Hilary Hahn, Baltimore, famous classical violinist from Baltimore. And I guess that attracted some attention, and he was asked to do a film score for something called Gluck by, I guess, some German person, and then he started getting like asked to do a bunch of like orchestral stuff with the Leipzig Radio Symphony Orchestra, and then doing some more film scores. So he's not a Zimmer person at all.
Okay. Yeah, I just took a shot at it because German and some stylistic similarities. Yeah.
It seems like he's done a lot of Netflix stuff recently, though. So he's one of the Netflix people.
One of the guys.
Yeah.
Cool. Is that it?
That's all I have.
Sweet. Want to take us into the next section?
Yeah, well, thank you for watching and or listening to Mixed Media Music. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and check us out on our Discord and our locals page. You can find the links to all of that at mixedmediapodcast.com. Link is pointing the right way. Yes, down there. So yeah, thanks for watching and listening.
All right, here we go.
Mixed Media Movies.
And welcome to the Mixed Media Movies segment of our Mixed Media podcast. Today we're doing another round of arguing with Reddit, which is something we do every week. We rotate between the hosts of the show. But first, we should introduce ourselves. So my name is Irving Nestor. I'm a filmmaker and media entrepreneur. I own a company called Ariella based out of Mount Carmel, Pennsylvania.
Hi, I'm Ben Costello. I'm a flute player and media composer living in Los Angeles.
And I'm Nathan Nestor. I'm a 3D modeler and game developer.
Sweet. So we're just going to hop right to it in classic arguing with Reddit fashion. Don't get too serious with it. I have not seen any of the posts from Reddit or wherever they come from that my co-hosts have found for me, but hopefully there's some hot takes in there, some interesting stuff to talk about. I did find one for myself, so I didn't actually read it. I just saw the headline and saw how many upvotes it had, and I definitely had to talk about that. So we're just going to pull them up one by one, and feel free in the chat, if you have anything to say about what I have to say, please tell me how wrong I am. I would love to engage with your thoughts on these particular topics, but expect pushback. So anyway, let's see here. So the first one I'm going to pull up is from Nathan. So Nathan, if you want to explain while I pull it up.
This one's from a new source. It's from r// writing, which I don't think we've ever gotten one from there. But the question is simple, but there are some hot takes, potentially hot takes in the what do you call these things? Comments, replies, whatever, on Reddit. The title is just "How do I start writing fiction?" And the description is pretty short. I have flirted with writing fiction in the past. I have a lot of ideas on characters, place, and plot. Do I just open up Word document and stare at it until my brain kicks in? How do you start something new? The first comment, at least ordered on my screen, is start with a scene, any scene. It doesn't have to be the beginning. But the second one is just different. It just says there is no process to follow. You write. If you don't want to start at the start, write the scene or conversation in your head. You're essentially asking how to run a marathon as a beginner. Put shoes on, go outside and run a mile, then 2, then 3, then 5, etc. Then the other one says, step 1, get idea. Step 2, outline idea. Step 3 through 99, right? So what are your takes on these ideas?
Yeah, oof, this is a it's a huge one. So I kind of agree with everybody because there's not really a correct answer. I mean, I think the person I agree with the most is actually the second one, which is just you just got to do it. The reason why it's not that there's no technique to writing or defined technique to writing. It's just that your access to that technique is going, like, how you relate to those techniques is going to be highly personal. So, for example, I've talked about act structure a lot, right, on this show. I mean, you can check out the Writing 101 episode if you want to see my thoughts on that. Sort of Shakespearean method of writing, which I think is typically a quite superior way to write, structure in particular. And I really love story structure. And you should be learning all of it. And you should be, I don't know what kind of writing you're doing, but if it's books, read books. If it's screenplays, read screenplays. In fact, if you're writing books, maybe read screenplays anyway. If you're writing a screenplay, read some books, right? And get writing and storytelling from a lot of different fiction sources that you like. And understand too, just like this is kind of like appreciating any art form, right? Like you should probably give respect to the classics in some respect, like what people generally have found over the ages, sort of transcend just a generation and kind of get passed along. Not that you particularly have to like those things, but maybe try to understand why people like them. But that's all about the craft of writing itself. It's not really about how you actually like take your fingers and start typing and like do the thing, right? How you do that is you just do it. Like, there's no I suspect it's like making anything, it's your personal way of relating those things that you've learned to what you're about to do. You're certainly going to get it wrong, like the first time. Certainly. I mean, I remember the first screenplay I wrote. I definitely had a less refined understanding of writing, and I look back at it, and I have serious problems with that screenplay. Like in terms of how I structured it, and like trying to fix it is kind of nightmarish. Whereas like future concepts that I had, and I started writing them out in a way that was a little bit more comfortable, I found that what that way was. So, a typical strategy, or actually, sorry, I should say, think about it first from how the story comes to you. I think that's probably the best advice that I got, was just start with how the story came to you and just regurgitate it from there. So for me, I tend to have tons of ideas that like kind of just keep branching, right? And the biggest fear for me is losing ideas. Like, forgetting how I connected A to B and B to C, and I'm just stuck with A and C now, and I missed the middle bit. Or like I had these visual ideas or whatever, and I forgot them later, or I had whatever, some whatever it is. So what I like to do is I like to kind of do like a stream of consciousness pass, where I just kind of type everything that comes to mind, and usually that prompts more things to come to mind for the way that my brain works, and it ends up being like a just disgusting diarrhea of, I don't do it in any screenwriting platform or anything like that. I just literally open OneNote for me because I use OneNote, and I just start just typing notes basically on everything. And I think that helps a lot of people to do it that way because there's like no pressure. When you start from beginning and you're like, I'm going to go from beginning to end, that is really stressful of an idea. Like that, like all you can think of is how much left there is to go. When you start from the beginning, and maybe you work that way, and that's fine if you do. But I find that from what I've read from other people, it seems to be that it's better to just let the story sort of evolve and tell itself to yourself, and sort of regurgitate those notes out, and then start to form the actual thing, after that. So for me, I tend to get a lot of I tend to have like a more abstract idea that comes to me first. Usually it's like something like a theme. Usually theme through a circumstance, like, so it's like, wow, this situation would be great to explore this theme, right? And that's the first thing that comes to mind. Or it's like some philosophical thing, right? Like some idea, and I'm like, I can actually translate this into film in this way, and that's interesting. And let me just take that as the core concept. And then typically what comes to me afterwards is like, because I'm I'm a I'm a camera guy. I love anything visual language related. Is I start thinking about visual language like pretty much right after that, and sometimes the images are tied to the core idea, and I'm thinking about how do I create a system out of this for this particular film, and from there the whole thing starts to come together. I actually think of structure quite late in the process, which is after I've feel like I've gotten like 90% of the pieces written down. And then I start to think about, okay, how am I pacing this thing and how am I telling the story from a structure perspective? That's all what I do. What you do is you just have to do it. It sucks the first time you do it. You're probably going to get angry at yourself as you botch your first idea. But like the key thing is to do it again, just like anything else, that you do. You got to practice. It's no different. So that's what I got to say about that. It's probably not the answer that anyone wants to hear, which is just do it. But at some point, that's just kind of what it is. So yeah, that's my advice for that one. Okay. The next one is from. I'll do the one from me here. So. I found this on r/movies, and it had something like 240 upvotes on a topic that I found.
Ben's camera stopped functioning, it seems.
Oh no! Hopefully, it didn't disconnect.
Another technical difficulty, huh?
Yeah, today is technical difficulty day. Sorry, I just noticed Post chat's up in here. So he said, Post said, yeah, you just gotta get the experience. Yeah, I agree with you. He also says, I have found a huge amount of inspiration for game development from reading. Exactly. Don't separate the arts, people. Don't be pretentious about your art form. Go listen to some music. Go to a museum. Do literally anything. Exist in the world of beauty in total, and your stuff will be better for it. Let's see. Okay, Ben's back. Let me actually make sure the chat is showing, which I forgot to do. Here it is. Okay. So this one says, it's actually longer than I thought, so I'm definitely not going to read this whole thing. Oh no, my camera died. All the things are happening bad. Okay. Actually, do one of y'all want to, read it, synopsis it, while I put my camera battery back in?
I can open it, I guess. Let's see. It's titled, Can We Please Get Back to the Era Where Blockbuster Movies something. Is that one? Let's see. Alright, so this one is titled, if it would load. I'm waiting. Okay. Can we please get back to the era where blockbuster movies that are supposed to be fun actually take themselves and their world seriously? So it's pretty long. I can. Let's start reading. I remember when the Adam Sandler's Grown-Ups movie was coming out, and the main criticism was that Adam clearly just wanted to get paid for a few weeks away with his buddies, so he had agreed to make a movie when he did, and as a result, you get a couple films where it's clear no actual thought has gone into anything. People just want to have a good time. Jeez, that was a long sentence. Now, I never resented them for that. I always kind of like the idea, to be honest. However, I cannot help but feel that the idea penetrates so many movies now. And instead of trying to make a world where we can get sucked into, everyone is afraid to make a world feel lived in, and it just feels like a group of people messing around on set. Okay, so, yeah, I guess we have the main idea just being I actually remember hearing someone recently say something about, is it Grown Ups? Yeah, I think it was literally this movie, actually, that, I heard someone else say this thing that, it just kind of seemed like people were, it was just like a sort of, fun time on set, and not necessarily a more, I guess, I don't know, I don't know why I think of Transformers, I don't know why, but I guess that would be a more, serious, I guess, blockbuster. I don't think that necessarily the idea is that it can't be a comedy, but just that your attitude towards the comedy is different, right? So is it like are you treating this as more like?
Oh no! I put a dead battery in it. Dang it! Hold on. Continue talking.
Yeah, I'm trying to stall. Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily a comedy, but the attitude toward the comedy is different, right? So I haven't watched Grown Ups. I don't really know anything about it, so I don't really know. But I do know Grown Ups has I think stars a few big name stars in the lineup, and those would be sort of just friends goofing around and stuff like that. But you can create a comedy where you imagine like on set it might have a different vibe where it's less like you know we're really having like a lot of fun here. Which once again, I don't want to say that having fun is bad, and you probably will have fun making a comedy. I'd hope, I guess, right? Things should be funny, but uh, I would say something like The Office, for example, would be different. Where like it doesn't seem like the story of The Office and the individual episodes don't seem to lend themselves to like we're kind of just a bunch of friends coming up with the most fun ideas in this movie, and then we're having fun off of that because those aren't really the most fun ideas to do, if you get what I'm saying. Whereas I haven't watched Grown Ups, but that might be what they're referencing. I don't know. Maybe Irving's back, so maybe he knows more about this.
Okay, sorry for that. This is apparently one of those episodes where everything goes wrong.
I will say, like the last three paragraphs in particular of this, I think are the most interesting.
Okay.
Those are the ones I did not read, so that's unfortunate. But, okay.
I watched the Guy Ritchie's Sherlock Holmes movies the other day for the first time in years, and it was honestly refreshing to see big budget movies that didn't feel the need to poke fun at itself constantly. Luckily, Top Gun 2 is another film with a crazy premise, but everyone within the world took everything seriously. Maybe I'm just a old man yelling at the clouds, but it would be nice to get back to an era where wacky movies didn't feel the need to point out how crazy everything was. Okay, I think I get the idea. Talking about movies. Okay, yeah, I think I get the idea here. I liked this one a lot. I liked this, and I thought it was so interesting how many people ended up upvoting it as well, because I've talked about it with regards to Marvel movies, and honestly, it's Marvel movies that caused this trend. I shouldn't say caused it. Their movies make fun of themselves all the time. That's not new.
The second comment says that. I was gonna say you mean the Marvel trademark vibe.
Yeah, exactly. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear the Marvel hate, but I'm going to say it anyway. The what ended up happening was that Marvel ended up formalizing itself, right? Like they've Iron Man was good, but Iron Man didn't tell them how to make a whole coherent franchise. They sort of found after the first I don't know 3 or 4 films, they found like a rhythm. I mean, you can see that Captain America is clearly a different style, basically, entirely from what Iron Man was and what would be the generic slapped-on style for every film, past like the first few films of Marvel movies. So they had to ask themselves, what works here? And people are like, wow, these movies are so fun, right? Like, that's like, fun is probably the number one word that comes to mind when people think of Marvel movies. And they, in the corporate boardroom, they're like, what makes a movie fun? And and one of the answers that they got was that there's some self-deprecating humor, right, in a lot of these films. A lot of that was a lot more organic at the start, right? It's like the filmmakers just having a lot of fun. Everyone's just kind of having a lot of fun. Some of these lines are improvised, right, by the actors themselves because they understand the genre that they're in. They're doing a good job. When you start to force it into films that really don't need it. I mean, there are plenty of Marvel movies that could really do with taking themselves seriously. Like the whole of the Avengers movies, practically, which they do take themselves more serious than average, but there's so much undercutting of good moments with humor that's like self-deprecating. It's called there's a word for this. I'm gonna forget what it is. It starts with B. Let's see here if I can get this correctly.
Of continuously undercutting like the seriousness. Is that what you're saying?
It's like when you undercut a serious moment with comedy.
I think kind of like bathos.
Bathos, yes, bathos. There's a trivia question. And Marvel movies are just all bathos. But then when are you supposed to care? Like, when does the caring start? You know what I mean? So what do they do to end up sucking people into the long game of these stories? Is they end up doing what I call, well, I have a very like inappropriate phrase for it, I suppose, so I guess I won't say it. But like but basically it's just like when people are like addicted to the plot, right? So like it's like it becomes more in the, I suppose, genre of like storytelling in the comic sense, which is totally like, it actually makes a lot more sense to me in the comic book world to have stories that are so plot driven, right? It makes a lot of sense with the art form. It makes a lot of sense with the way that they issue things. It makes a lot of sense that that's the way in the comic world. And I suppose if you really like that in the comic world, waiting to see what happens next as the primary reason why you watch the next thing, you know, waiting to see what the creators come up with as the crazy scheme, how we're going to get to point A to point B. If that's all you care about in a movie, you know, I guess you got what you got, right? But for me, movies are so much more than that, and honestly, it's kind of taking on something. These films are taking on something that don't fit as well as it's good to do once in a while. You have these undercutting moments, and it just becomes about what happens and how cool what happens really is. But then, like, you kind of sit there, you're like, why did I waste my time? And I didn't really care what ended up happening in the end. Like, I really didn't feel for anybody. I didn't really identify with the message of the film. You know, you're just kind of like, yeah, that was competently put together. Well, a lot of them aren't, but most of them are like, you know, like a competent gaffer lit the scene, a competent, you know, it's all competent, but none of it changes you, right? And so, you know, and that sounds weird when we talk about blockbuster movies, but it really isn't. Like, think about Spielberg movies for a moment. Those are all Spielberg is like people don't understand how far we've come from, like, you know, the classic blockbuster film. But like Spielberg is kind of like, you know, back when he was especially pumping out films like crazy. I mean, he's kind of like the dime a dozen, like, not dime a dozen that he's not special. He's a great filmmaker, but like he's just putting out so much stuff with like the similar blockbuster feel to it, in the sense that like it appeals to a large variety of people. Families can take their children in the summer, and it's a fun time, right? It's like the whole idea is to have fun. But the thing is, those movies actually have like substance to them, like in the sense that you actually can. There are things that speak to deeper things in those films, and no matter how ridiculous they are, they take themselves quite seriously most of the time, right? I mean, there's a lot of lines we laugh at in Jurassic Park, right? But like when people think about the most dramatic moments of that film, they think about the dramatic emotions they felt, not the cool joke that was spun up at that exact time, right? So, you know, and that's why those films, I think, have a more lasting character to them. They get referenced more in the pop culture, in just common parlance, like just lines from Jurassic Park just get dropped, and they're kind of funny out of context, but we all know in context that we were compelled by them, you know? So, like, yeah, that's all to say. It's very interesting that, it actually wasn't 200 upvotes. It's like 485 upvotes.
It's literally like, as I have it open, like, and it's gone up like 25 in like the last, while we've been talking.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there have been new comments since we've been talking.
I'm proud of you, Reddit. I'm proud. I'm very proud. But yeah, I agree with this sentiment, basically.
I think the line that I think of, that I was thinking of when I saw this, something like Return of a Jedi, right? Admiral Akbar, like, it's a trap, right?
Yeah.
Which, like, you know, there are endless memes about that.
Yeah.
it is a fact of pop culture. But my guess, granted, I wasn't there in 1984, I think, when it came out. You know, watching it in theaters the first time. My guess is that that's not quite how it was taken by the first audiences of that film. You know, like, in the context of the film, like, it does. I mean, maybe we have seen the trap coming, you know, because and Admiral Akbar and the rest of Rebel Alliance is a little bit slow. But
Yeah.
but I mean, it's effective, you know. Like if you're really caught up in that story, like you're like, wow, we've been trapped. Now we're really in trouble. Like,
Yeah. 100%. And I think it also led to a lot of movies. Like at the same time, you had like what's it called, CinemaSins, if you know that YouTube channel, gigantic channel. I've talked about this before, but like you have all these things happening all at once where people stop giving license. They stop suspending disbelief as easily for no other reason than it's not as cool anymore to do so. Like, and that's really just sad. Like, it's okay to just like let yourself go. I wish I could do that more easily now. I come at these things like way too analytically often, and sometimes it's hard to immerse myself. But I remember what it was like, you know, when I was a kid, and like that suspension of disbelief, like giving your imagination over to a blockbuster movie that wants to give you in return tons of fun, as well as like pulling on your heart a little bit here and there, maybe even sending you home with an idea that kind of sticks with you, which happened more often than not, right? You know, like that's a good thing. And things like CinemaSins, while they're fun, like I have no problem with CinemaSins specifically. I just had a problem with the way like it changed the culture of viewing. It's not the fact that someone made it. It's supposed to be funny. Like I wish everyone just laughed at it. But then everyone got in the forums after that era, and they were like, "Oh ha ha ha! This movie is no good because look at all the inaccuracies." It's like what? like do you have no ability to suspend disbelief and just enjoy something? Like I don't get it. You know, the filmmaker can't just like replicate fine reality for you every single time and make every good film ever that way. You know,
like that with some games too.
Yeah, that's true. That happens in gaming as well. I mean, remember the ridiculous era where people were criticizing Call of Duty for not being realistic? It was the most cringe thing.
Compare Battlefield and Call of Duty, like well, one of these is more realistic than the other one. It's like, why are we even talking about these games in this conversation?
It's one of the most cringe things ever.
There are very few games that even try to claim, you know, that try to be anything, you know, like real life. So it's very strange. I mean, in the FPS genre, I guess, as a whole,
pretty much any genre.
Racing games, there are a lot of like simulator-esque racing games or whatever. It's like oh, we have like tires that like mold correctly. It's like, all right, crazy, no one cares, but you know, that's fine.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's all to say, like, we lost the magic because people stopped respecting the quote-unquote magic. You know, so essentially, people didn't want to be charmed anymore. And then Marvel came along, and they told a bunch of funny jokes and about themselves, but then without being outright parodies, which would have been much better, just be an outright parody then, and just be a parody movie. But then we forgot what it felt like to actually feel something, you know, deeper than just, I was entertained for 2 hours. And that is my end of rant against Marvel movies. I'm sorry, not really sorry at all, actually, for all the Marvel fans out there. But you should know what you're getting into if you're on this channel, and we're talking about Marvel movies. So there you go. Okay, last one, real quick.
Was that it?
And what is this one?
Oh, there was one more.
Yeah, I'll read it. It's pretty short, so I'll just read the whole thing. The title is "What Movie Seems Like More Than Just a Movie?" In my opinion, certain movies like Prometheus, Doctor Sleep, They Live, Aliens, and The Matrix kind of give you this feeling that there may be more to the themes in the movie than just being a work of fiction. They almost make your spine tingle as if part of you knows there's some truth to it. Like we all kind of do live in a matrix when you think about it. And of course, the top comment with 3 times as many upvotes as the actual question is 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Why does that to be the top comment?
Oh, sorry. Actually, even more. 57 upvotes is The Truman Show. Then 2001: Space Odyssey.
We have the obligatory 2001: Space Odyssey and Aliens references.
Okay, I will just get this out of the way up front. If you didn't know, 2001: A Space Odyssey is actually it's a great film. It's one of my favorite visual feasts I've ever seen in my entire life. Images seared into my brain. It's so beautiful.
Visual feast. I've never heard it something described like that, but okay.
It is shot so gorgeously. It is It is on the upper echelons of beauty in terms of how gorgeously it's shot and how meticulously it's edited. What it is not, it is a deep movie. I'm sorry, you are being moved by the beauty. You may not believe that, but that is what's moving you. The actual underlying themes and plot are rather simple. It is as simple as it appears. Kubrick has said so a billion times. He made it explicitly clear that it's pretty much what you got. And if you tried to go deeper... Oh, go ahead.
Is it more complicated now, though, with AI, now that we actually have HAL?
Yeah, well, no, there's a question of AI and stuff like that. I don't mind, like there are themes in it, but people take it they analyze the most minute details, like things that really don't matter at all. They take the last scene of the film is so psychedelic that it's tripped everyone up on the film. If you haven't seen it, the last scene is we go from like sci-fi to I don't know what to call it. It becomes psychedelic. I don't know what else to call it.
I mean, that was the era for that, right?
Yeah. And it's great. It's a great ending. I love the ending. And there is a theme to it, right? There's this whole theme of rebirth. That's all it is. It's just rebirth, right? But that's obvious to anyone watching that's the theme being explored is rebirth. But people want to see 10 layers into it. And I am not against looking 10 layers into anything. There are plenty of movies that are like that. 2001: A Space Odyssey is not one of them, okay? So that's just an obligatory disclaimer. If you love the movie, I do too. So
it kind of reminds me from the same era of people trying to find all these clues in songs by the Beatles, right? And the Beatles poke fun at them sort of with Glass Onion, right?
Yeah.
Here's another clue for you all, right? The walrus. Sorry, I muted myself in the middle of that. The walrus was Paul, right?
Oh. Yeah.
We should have
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say we should have for Mixed Media Podcast, we have a version of a frequently asked questions where it's frequently given takes and then our frequently given responses, because we've definitely gone over this 2001 thing a few times.
Yes.
And it will not be the last time, I'm sure.
To be fair, that wasn't intentional. I picked up based on the title, not based on the top response, but that happened to be the response.
Yeah, it's just it always works its way in, though,
Yeah. Well, it's because people have such a transformative experience when they watch it, which is totally valid. I had a transformative experience while watching it. That's totally fine. But they attribute it to their mind goes straight to plot. That's really what happens. They go, what happened? What happened must speak to why it's so good. When really what happened is actually rather simple. And the theme is on the nose. He's blaring at you. This life cycle thing. You get it from the opening shot all the way to the end. It's consistent and unambiguous, and anything else is just kind of incidental to the visual craziness of it. I mean, especially at the end, and he just was trying to go nuts with it. It's very effective, but it makes you focus on that last two shots of the film, and that's great. But that's not. There's nothing to read more into it than that. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but I didn't want to hear it too, because I wanted to know what the heck just affected me as well. Then you do a little bit of proper research into it, and you're like, oh, it's pretty much what I think it is. And the reason you kind of stop there is because Kubrick practically made fun of people for it too, for looking too deeply into it himself. So there you go. I'm sorry to say that, but anyway, more than just the movie. That can be every movie you watch. Think about a universe where every movie you watch is more than just a movie. That is attainable because that's every good movie. So, really, I think what this person's getting at is that the movie did something more than just entertain them for however many minutes. I mean, The Matrix is very different from Aliens. It's completely, we're talking, it's not like we have the same ideas being played with in these films, right? But The Matrix is a very powerful film. There's a reason why it's in the common parlance so much, right? It's a very powerful visual representation of this abstract idea of, the dynamics of truth, right? In one sense, but also this idea that we all sort of have this inbuilt sort of conformist sort of hive mind sort of mentality, and what is the merits or not merits of breaking free, right, from that mold. So the Matrix is going to be the kind of thing for that, and it honestly is extremely effective. But it's really effective because it's really great filmmaking. Like, it's just stellar filmmaking. It's a great film, and it's telling that theme in so many layers. It's so good. Same thing with a lot of the films that you mentioned here. So I would venture to say, if you like that feeling, go look for it. Don't just consume mindlessly what Netflix puts in front of you tomorrow. Break away from that cycle. Take the red pill, right? When it comes to your movie consumption habits, and instead of letting the algorithm tell you what to watch, break away and intentionally look for things that do this to you, and you will be shocked, with the fact that movies can be so powerful, is what I suspect. So that would be my take on this one. Sweet. Any more on that topic?
I guess I would just say, I think what the person's getting at is that, like, they think all these science fiction films have some element of truth about reality in them, where, I mean, maybe thematically they might, but yeah. I feel like science fiction is the last place I would look to for something that's going to tell me about how things actually are in films.
Well, that's the thing. It's the theme that's always, like, the most important, right? Like, it's always the core messaging that's the most important. And how well did you do that? Particularly in storytelling, art forms, It's kind of your core thing, is like, what are you trying to say? And how well do you say that? So yeah, but I agree with you. I mean, you don't watch those films for, like a one-to-one correlation, grafting things to other things, as if it works that way. Yeah. Oh, and the last thing I want to say before we end off in this segment is I did check while Ben was talking about 1917. I was just like, man, I have to cop me that movie. It is on sale, quite a bit on sale, on Best Buy right now. You can buy it for $8. So if you think it's not worth $8, you're insane. So go copy a copy of 1917. Just wanted to let you know that there was that going on. And there's
I do enjoy that film.
Okay, good. Yes. So you got the recommendation from Ben. All right, that's all I got for my segment. So the last thing we'll talk about is gaming. So Thank you for stopping by for Arguing with Reddit. See you on the other side of the transition. And here... Oh, hold on. Where are my transitions? What the heck?
Transition.
Oh, there we go. Okay. And here we go.
Mixed Media Gaming.
Welcome to Mixed Media Gaming, the gaming segment of the Mixed Media podcast. Today I'll be reviewing the game Operation Harsh Doorstop. Before I get into it, let's introduce ourselves. So, my name is Nathan Nestor. I'm a 3D modeler and game developer.
Hi, I'm Ben Costello. I'm a flute player and media composer living in Los Angeles.
Hi, my name is Irving Nestor. I'm a filmmaker and media entrepreneur based out of Mount Carmel, Pennsylvania. And I accidentally misspelled the game on the episode artwork. So please note that it says Doorstep. It's actually Doorstop, and that's completely my bad.
Yeah. So what is this game? I actually, Urban, can you put the video I posted in Discord somewhere? Yeah. So we'll see some gameplay footage of it, and you can mute the volume. Mm-hmm. What is this game? I'm just stalling so I can open my notes. There it is. It's a really interesting game. At least the goal of the game, like what it's trying to do. So The game was created by a new development studio, and that studio was created by a YouTuber you may have heard of if you frequent the FPS community called Blue Drake 42. Blue Drake 42 is a YouTuber who often critiques and talks about different video games, specifically first-person shooters, although not always. Tends to be on the more tactical side of shooters, but not always. Once again, he created a game dev studio called Drakeling Labs, and I think they technically have a second title. I don't know what it is. I don't think it's very significant. But this is their first real thing of interest, I guess. And yeah, so the game is the interesting thing is the game is entirely free. So
it looks very good, by the way.
Yes, although it's not. So
It's all looks apparently.
It's we'll get there. It's mixed. There's ups and downs, we'll get there. But yeah, the game's entirely free, so that means you can pick it up right now for free. There's no cost to it, and there's no microtransactions. There is no way to get anything. Oh, sorry, that's not true. You can the only thing you can purchase at the moment is early access to certain content. But there is no content that you can buy that you cannot get otherwise. You know what I'm saying? So any content you can purchase will just come to you later, come to everyone for free anyways later. That content will be it's maps at the moment at least. It's just some maps that are early access. They have to pay for. So yeah, so why did he do this? His goal was to create. He has a lot of critiques about FPSs over the years, and I'm sure he's like, well, I can do this better, right? So there's that, first off. And secondly, and the big thing is that the idea is that it's an open platform, essentially. And that what I mean is that essentially a game built on the idea of moddability. So the idea is that he creates a very bare bones FPS and basically says, hey, everyone, go wild. This is free. Do whatever you want with it. And yeah, that's essentially the idea.
Kind of like Arma, maybe?
But Arma is not actually meant for. Well, it's meant as modding, but it's not like there's actually like a real game if you don't have modding. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, okay, I see what you mean.
There is a real game here, and you're watching it. If you're looking at it, this looks like vanilla at least. This looks like a vanilla game, but the game is very basic, and that's not the emphasis, right? The idea actually behind Operation Harsh Doorstop is it's just an example, I guess you can say. Example of what you can do with the tools provided, and it's it's a very simple example. Which good and bad. We'll get into that later. The game is relatively new. It released about a month ago, February 13th, 2023. But here's the issue. It was released and it had mixed reviews on Steam. I thought, how is that possible? How could it possibly? This game is entirely free. I don't know. How could you not recommend this? Because on Steam it's just recommend or don't recommend, right? Upon playing, I understood why exactly there are so many negative reviews. There's still more positive reviews by a decent amount, but it still has the mixed tag on Steam, and that is always a bit concerning, especially for a free game. Now, there are a few common complaints, and it all comes down to a lack of tools, essentially. So there's no anti-cheat software that's been implemented. There are no administrative tools for server owners, so the game doesn't have official servers. Everyone has to host their own servers, and there's no way to kick people out, as far as I'm aware, things like that, or ban people. So, people are just crazy. Yeah, they're just nothing like that. And there's no spawn protection as well. So spawn camping is a thing that exists.
I haven't seen that since 2002.
That's a rare event. And that's to do with map design partially, and also the lack of just spawn protection. But the thing is, you don't need spawn protection in games if you just have good map design that makes sense. So take an example of Insurgency, which is probably the most direct comparison people would make to this game.
Yeah.
And the fact that it has a low TTK, the style is kind of similar-ish. But yeah, that's the obvious comparison, even though these are very different games. The map design of Insurgency, though, even though as far as I'm aware there's no spawn protection, you just don't have. It's just hard to actually get okay. If you have a team has gotten to a position where you can actually start spawn killing. The other team has like just given up. I don't know what's happened. I don't know how this is possible because essentially the spawns are always are at choke points. So there's only one door that enemies can go through. So just don't let them through that door, or not one door, but very very select few areas that they can get through. Just don't let them through. But we'll get to why the map design lends to spawn killing and stuff like that later. So those are some negative things that are commonly seen if you look at the reviews, and quite apparent if you play the game. The game is also very bare bones, as I said before, which a lot of people either didn't get the message that that's kind of the point. But also fair enough that you can say, I don't recommend this because it's bare bones. Even if it's the point, you might say that the bare bones nature is just not fun, right? And that maybe a good tech demo, a good proof of concept, but actually playing it isn't really that fun. Although actually I don't mind the bare bonesness, but yeah.
So Post says in the chat, he says they launched it without admin tools, WTF, Insurgency properly designed sightlines. Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Blue Drake has responded to this criticism.
You should do an episode on map design, by the way. It reminds me. I don't think you've ever done like a.
I don't think I've done anything on level design in general, actually, as far as I'm aware. I could do that. That'd be interesting. It'd be a cool research project too, because I'm not too familiar with FPS map design, but I know enough. I've watched some videos on Valorant and CS:GO and stuff like that.
Yeah, I want to learn too. I don't know anything about map design.
Yeah, all right. Okay. I'll write that down. So.
Ooh, we got to bring Post on. He says, "Yeah, I have decent insight into multiplayer map design. Maybe we'll collab." Oh,
interesting. If you're interested, we could have you on as a guest host. It's been a long time since we had a guest host, and I'm trying to do that again. So if that's something you're interested in, then we could potentially do that. I lost my spot in my notes.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. It's my fault. I went out of order, which is the issue, right? I'm like, where was I?
You're talking about spawn camping, and then we're
spawn
talking
camping. Game is very bare bones. That's why I said last.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so a lot of the positive reviews are just like, dude, there's a lot of merit to the fact that you created an entirely free game with the goal of being a modding platform. That's just pretty cool, and I agree with that idea. It's very cool, and the first type of game I've ever seen like this, and. Don't underestimate the power of modding. So, modding is it is so influential to the history of gaming. It's crazy how unofficial additions of code, almost always unofficial additions of code, and art assets and things like this have created such big changes. So, for example, you wouldn't necessarily have games like say Fortnite, right? That's one of the That's maybe the second biggest game after Among Us, at its peak, right? And at the peak of Among Us, right? In terms of pop culture knowledge and stuff like that, right? Fortnite was very big and still is very big. Now Fortnite is a battle royale, of course, and battle royales come from a mod. In fact, battle royales come from a mod of a mod. So the original mod was DayZ, and the mod that came after that was DayZ Battle Royale. I think that's what it's called. And if you didn't have those mods, you wouldn't. That was the first battle royale game, right? At least the first popular one. So you could probably say, DayZ is responsible. Well, DayZ battle royale is in part responsible for the entire battle royale trend, or just them existing in general.
Trash game though.
I don't know anything about DayZ battle royale, to be honest.
Oh, it's just the Arma engine is just. Trash.
Oh well, yeah, Arma is kind of wacky. It's also Arma 2, I'm pretty sure, is what DayZ is based off of.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so if there was no DayZ Battle Royale, there'd be no Fortnite probably. If there's no DayZ, there'd be no DayZ Battle Royale. So that's kind of wild, isn't it? There's also MOBAs. MOBAs come from StarCraft, a StarCraft mod.
Oh yes, that's true. Yeah, I think that's right.
MOBAs come from a StarCraft mod, I think. And tower defense games come from. Oh, there are 2 Warcraft 3 mods that were the first, or said to be the first, tower defense games. So, and there are countless other genre defining mods. And it's kind of crazy that the first in the genre isn't actually a standalone game. It's a mod. That's kind of weird. But the reason is because having a base amount of code and art and all of this work done for you, the accessibility is just like, it just lowers the barrier to entry for creating a game. It's like if I wanted to create an FPS right now, right, and I want to use Operation Harsh Doorstep as like as like the base of it, like totally possible, and would be done in a lot less time. All the networking is done for me. The game supports up to 100 player servers, which is kind of crazy. That's not normal. All that's done for me. There's already some art. If I don't want to, change everything about it, right? Like I don't have to. You can imagine if Insurgency didn't exist, you can create Insurgency from this, essentially, right? You can create a very similar experience to Insurgency from this game. So, that's pretty cool. And a lot of these games, like I don't think Warcraft 3 or StarCraft, or Arma necessarily. I don't know if these games have official modding. Most modding is just unofficial. It's like someone just figured out how to mod the game, and they created some modding tool, a modding API, and people were like, okay, let's use this. So I don't know if any of these games had official modding support, but this game does have official modding support. So things should be a lot better documented, a lot easier to create things. People were creating mods on day one, I'm pretty sure. Maybe not the most complicated things, but there was something. And yeah, that's just pretty cool. And mods can, of course, extend the lifetime of the game and make it a way, attract a whole new audience of people. Like for me with Minecraft, I don't really enjoy vanilla all too much. I think I've said this before, but I think it kind of just gets a little bit boring over time, especially single player playing. But with mods, it is a whole new endless thing of content, right? There are endless amounts of Minecraft mods that are actually worth playing and really fun. So yeah, modding is super powerful. So really cool goal with the game. Really cool idea. There are some mods that have been created for the game that are already out, that are despite this game being a month and a week old about, that are pretty promising. There's one that has very simple destructible buildings in it that are not Battlefield level, but it's something, I guess. There's a vehicles mod, because there's no vehicles yet, although it's planned, but they just beat the devs to it, which is kind of funny. They just made vehicles before the devs did. There are, of course, things like additional maps and weapons, which I'm sure are not very complicated to put into the game. And there's even a third-person mod that adds a third-person camera to your character, which is cool as well.
Is there a way for the modders to monetize their work?
Well, typically modding is free, right?
No, I mean, is there a store, an official store for? Because what does that? Well, Roblox definitely does that. Obviously, it's kind of a little different.
I mean, it's not. I consider it more of an engine rather than a base game that has mods on top of it.
That's true. But on City Skylines, they for mods for that, they rely purely on donations. But they do solicit that.
Okay, I was wondering about the legality of a lot of that, because no, you're just selling your own stuff. You're not selling.
As long as you're not violating the terms of service, right? That's all that matters.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I would assume this game has a fairly permissive terms of service, as I assume it doesn't say anything like you cannot reverse engineer this game, because it's kind of half of modding, a lot of at least unofficial modding, that is a lot of what goes on. So yeah, I don't know if the game is open source. I don't think it is, but I feel like that'd be kind of useful for just a free game, right? It's what's the point of not making it open source? Maybe managing a community of open source developers, but I don't know. Seems like it'd be useful to me, but I don't know. So I don't think, at least as of now, there's any sort of infrastructure for paying the mods. All the modders. All the mods are on the Steam Workshop, and you cannot set up a store there, at least. So I don't know. Maybe there are donation links and things like that. I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah. So this all sounds very promising, right? It's wow, this is a great concept. There's a guy with years of experience critiquing first-person shooters. What could go wrong? Well, when I first loaded up, right, it was fine. Oh, by the way, another point to this game is that it actually works with Linux natively. So, wow, that's actually surprising. Part of that is definitely because it has no anti-cheat, and that's one of the big issues with Linux is that anti-cheat, is per operating system, and people don't want to develop for another operating system and anti-cheat. So there's that. But I hop into a multiplayer match, the single player and multiplayer, but I decided this seems like a multiplayer-based game, so let me join multiplayer. Well, the first thing I noticed is when you go through the list of servers, because all the servers are community hosted, and you can join whatever you want. My ping on all of them is large. I'm huh, that's very interesting. there are essentially, at most, at a given time that I've played this game, I've played for quite a bit. I've kept checking on the servers and stuff like that. At most, I found one server that would run in North America that would have a decent population of players. So everything else was either in Europe or Latin America, is what I found. I don't know why that is, because Blue Drake is I feel like he's Canadian actually. Maybe he's American. I don't know, but he's at least North American. So interesting that the audience for this video game is not North American at all. It's very strange, but it means that my ping is always bad, which is very unfortunate. And it always felt like when I was playing the game that there was something interesting going on with the networking where the ping reported was actually lower than the ping I was experiencing. So you can do a little test in this game where you shoot at a wall and you see how long it takes for like the bullet impact to like effect to happen. So it's interesting. Some games do like anti-lag measures in different ways. I recently watched a GDC talk on Rocket League's anti-lag measures. It's super interesting. But this game, it seems pretty simple. All it does is things run client side. So when you shoot, your own computer goes, okay, there should be a bullet marker here, right? The bullet hit this wall, and I'll put a little mark. And then the server will later, confirm that or not confirm that, depending on how long the delay is, I guess. And a second bullet mark will appear wherever, whenever the server has updated the client. So that's how that works. And you can tell by how late the second one is sent. On a low ping server, on a North American server, it'll just be the same exact time. It'll be instantaneous. There's no two hits. But I was getting delays of up to half a second on certain servers, which is essentially unplayable. And servers that reported like 150 ping, I was like, this is not 150 ping to me. This is kind of crazy. 150 is playable, even if it's kind of unfortunate. What I was experiencing was not playable. It was like the players, I have to lead the players. It was to a point where I could tell at first when I was in one of these matches, like the audio was kind of annoying me. It's like the gunshots kind of sound like these really annoying like rhythmic pops. I didn't think anything of it. I was like, the audio, I guess the sound is just annoying to me, right? But I noticed like there was always somebody shooting. It was always the same interval. It was like pop, 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 just over and over again. I was like, who is doing this for like, like 30 minutes, right? And why is this happening? It's kind of annoying, right? And what I realized eventually after like going through many servers is that what I'm pretty sure is happening is that is the server updating. The server is updating at those, like at least I'm receiving data at those intervals. And so I'm receiving the gunshots at these distinct times. Now, this didn't happen in all high
Never heard
servers.
of that before.
Yeah, I never heard of this either. I've never heard of it. This didn't happen in all hyping servers, just in some hyping servers. And it also explain why there was certain weird behavior where it's like, I literally thought people were attacking me with shotguns, right? Because I saw multiple bullets spray, but I'm like, there are no shotguns in this game. I was confused. And what I concluded is that
they're
it's actually
updating
just,
in a batch.
yes, it is multiple bullets being fired at me in a batch, essentially. That all came at once, essentially. This is very strange. I don't quite understand why this would happen. From a networking perspective, why things would come in a batch like that, I don't really get it, but it happened on some servers, it was very unfortunate. It made it kind of unplayable in a lot of scenarios. So I was like, okay, maybe multiplayer is just not it for now. I'll check back later. Let me go to single player, right? So I go to single player. Single player is not fun. I'll say that. The reason being is, well, it's just against AI. And the AI is incredibly dumb. It is so bad. The AI will just run around in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, it doesn't take any cover. It just runs around in the middle of nowhere. It'll group up in these little bunches, and they'll see you, and they'll have clone trooper aim for some reason. I don't know why. Like they'll be incapable of touching you.
Stormtroopers, clone troopers aren't bad.
I was about to say, I hesitated because wait a minute, I think it's actually stormtroopers that are the ones.
I mean, in theory, the stormtroopers have good aim too, just not when they're firing against any of the heroes.
Yeah, only because of that that hero armor. But yeah, I felt like I was a stormtrooper, or sorry, I was the hero and they were the stormtroopers. That's what it felt like. I was just running around feeling invincible, pretty much. I don't know why it was like that, but they would see you clearly, and they would shoot you, and you just kind of do a little zigzag or something, and they would not touch you. So yeah, It was kind of just it was fun for a moment, and then it became kind of ridiculous and kind of dumb.
Is
and
there
not
no
challenging.
common there's no like AI platform that's just a common API for AI or something like that?
I've never heard of one. I can see it be kind of tricky with things like cover and stuff like that, and having to be smart about that and what direction
yeah,
our
but you
enemies
can have
coming
like a
from, and
generic
things like this.
solution where it's like you label this object as cover, and then it'll figure everything out from there.
But now you have to figure out where the enemies is coming from, right? Where should I actually be looking, and things like that, right?
I guess, but I feel like there's still some base logic that could be standardized.
That's possible. But once again, this game is also bare bones, right? So there's also that. I think you're definitely meant to play in multiplayer. So there are a little AI in multiplayer.
Wait, so is this a modded tank on the screen right now?
Oh, that's not real. Yeah, that has to be modded. Wait, that's Battlefield. Is that? Wait, what am I looking at?
Wait, did it switch?
The video changed because that is.
Oh, whoops.
Oh,
I was like, why does it look completely different? Whoops, my bad. Continue, my bad.
Yeah. Oh, Post said the server tick rate must be super low. I don't think it's a tick rate issue because the tick rate can't be like that. Would actually be incredible if the tick rate was like because those pops.
I want to explain what a tick rate is.
Okay, so a tick rate. Well, a tick rate. The term is actually kind of generic. It actually doesn't have an inherent meaning. But there are typical ways people use it. So in this scenario, a tick rate would be like how quickly. It could be either how quickly the server sends you updates, like how often and what interval, or how often the server updates its state, I guess, right? So, like how often does it recalculate where players should be and things like that when bullets have been fired, or where bullets should be if it's not hit scan bullets and stuff like that. That'd be what a tick rate is typically. So on like a very generic average server for like an FPS, you might have like a 60 hertz tick rate, so 60 times a second. You update, but there are games definitely that have like 90 hertz servers or even 120 hertz servers. In some Rocket League is actually 120 hertz on their servers, which is really high. But yeah, that's what a tick rate is. So I don't think it's a tick rate issue because that would mean that the server is updating really infrequently, right? Which could be happen in a case where the server is overloaded, which is I guess possible. But there's a shotgun on the screen. I've never seen this before. Is this a mod?
It's a mod. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it looks a bit more jank. There's no like recoil on the shotgun. But yeah, I don't think it'd be a tick rate issue because that means the server is actually updating at like I don't know, like 1 hertz. Like I don't think that would be an incredibly strange choice for an FPS. It would be literally unplayable in any scenario. I think it has something to do with networking logic and how packets are being sent and things like this. I don't know, very strange. But anyways, so single player, not fun. Multiplayer, issues. I eventually got into. I had one very fun experience with the game. I found one server in North America. And it had a cap. It was like it was a low population server. It was like a cap of only 16 players, and it's full. It was actually a good time. I was like, wait, this is like not bad, despite its many flaws. When you can actually play the game, not bad, but also not perfect. So here's the thing: the map design is incredibly bad. Probably one of the worst offenses is that the map is so wide open that it's trivial to flank. It is trivial to flank, right? You just go around the map. It is not hard. There's nothing stopping you. There's no walls, no barriers. You just go around the map, right? No one's gonna be covering because to get there is like only a maniac would do this. It just takes so long, right? It takes so long to get around. But there's that one guy who does it. There's the one guy who does it, and wow, he's just behind your spawn. Wow, that's incredible, right? I've been that guy. I was like, can you just get around this? I was like, there's no way, right? Like, surely it's like a map that has like this fort. I was like, surely I can't just go around the entire fort. And I just walked around the entire fort. No, that is that simple. It took a long time, but I ran around the entire fort. And it's just like, why is that possible? I don't really know. But this game is very happy to put random invisible walls. Another 2002 trait apparently that I haven't seen in a very long time. But they'll just put invisible walls, just random places for no reason, as far as I'm aware, for obviously boundary reasons. But it always confuses me why they can't just be like things in the way. I don't know. or like I don't know. It's just their maps are so wide open relative to like a lot of the other shooters that I've played. That I guess it's kind of hard for them to do that because it's just so wide open. And if you're watching with the video on, you can see this is all modded. It's a mod showcase. This is what we're watching right now. So a lot of the stuff you're seeing is modded. So this is a third person mod actually. Third person is not in the game by default. So that's actually pretty cool. And I think this map might be modded as well. I'm not entirely sure. I don't recognize it. But yeah, so the mixture of being able to get behind people and low TTK, everything's either a 1-shot or 2-shot kill pretty much, and no kill cam means that you don't even know where they are. You're just dying at spawn and you don't know where they are.
Is sniping not an issue in this game?
There are snipers. The thing is, I've tried them, but my thought is just I can't hit anything because my ping is too high. I don't like I shoot something and then I see like the hit like on the ground or something like that. Like I'm like, wow, it took that a moment to travel, right? I have used the sniper. I have actually successfully killed people before. It's like it's hard to explain the wide openness. There are buildings that cover lines of sight, but it's like one, there isn't that much verticality so there's not that many places you can get on top of, so that makes it harder for snipers. So I guess that's the thing, right? There's not much verticality, but there's a bunch of one-story buildings. But between the one-story buildings, there's a lot of space oftentimes, right? There'll be a little cluster of one-story buildings and a lot of space. So maybe in those areas, yeah, it might be a bit of an issue. But in general, I wouldn't say sniping is an issue because there are not many good places for them to actually be, even though it's wide open. It's kind of strange, but yeah, it's just kind of how the map works out. There's also a lot of shrubbery in certain maps, like the Vietnam map. And that is one of the cool things about the game is that there are a lot of different areas that it showcases, and it shows that, hey, this game is kind of viable for a whole bunch of different uses. So there's the Vietnam War, there's World War I, there's World War II, there's like modern era, like War on Terror type stuff. Yeah, super cool. Aside from that, the gameplay is incredibly simple. As I said before, it's a simple tug-of-war game. It was kind of similar-ish to Verdun in a way, but not quite, where both teams can attack at the same time, actually, instead of just one team at a time. But there are no indicators when a point has been captured. Like, you just don't know unless you press M to look at the map. I think it's M. You press M, you move your hand off the keyboard, you press M to see where the new point is. Or if you look at the screen, right, you'll see like where the capture point is through buildings, like a little icon. It's very small and faded, and it's very hard to see. I'll be looking around like, where is this thing? I'll be looking left and right. I don't know where it is. Press M. Like, oh, it's moved. Okay, cool. So there's that. It's very minimalist HUD, reminiscent to Insurgency, which is definitely another reason why more comparisons would be made. And it is very visually appealing, however, as you can see by the videos. One thing I really like are the animations. I find that the animations for the weapons reloading is just very satisfying. It feels like the weapon actually has weight to it, which I feel like in a lot of games, it feels like the weapon is just kind of like a toy, and like they're just reloading effortlessly. Which it does seem like they're reloading pretty effortlessly, but there's some shake to it. It's like not a perfect process, I guess. I don't know how to explain it, but it feels like there's more weight to it. I cannot say the same over for the audio design. The gunshots sound like I'm shooting Nerf guns or something. I don't know. It sounds like little pellets are coming out of the gun. There's no weight to that at all, and it's very dissonant in that regard. There are also voice lines that characters will say, and I've heard one spoken in Vietnamese, and they sound fine. But the ones in English sound so overly dramatic, it's crazy. And I wonder if the Vietnamese ones are also overly dramatic, but it's like anime syndrome where I can't actually tell because I don't speak the language, so I don't really know how they say things, like culturally and stuff like that. So it just sounds normal to me. But yeah, the English stuff is, if you somehow managed to get immersed in this game, it would eject you immediately. It is the most I don't know, I'll say some generic lines like I see an enemy or something like that, but it's like so dramatic. It's like, I don't know, very, very strange.
It's crazy that what's on screen right now is the same game.
Oh yeah. This is the same game, but moddable. That's kind of cool, right?
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
So as far as mods go, very cool idea, very cool concept. Execution, not great. Blue Drake has responded to the mixed reviews, and he said things like, "Well, anti-cheat. I didn't put anti-cheat in the game because basically he says, well, in a lot of these in games like this where you host your own servers, the server owner is in charge of creating implementing anti-cheat, generally speaking, oftentimes. So games, I think he said like Squad, I think was the example he gave or something like that. I don't know if it was Squad. I think it was Squad. It's some FPS that's popular. And he's like, yeah, there's no anti-cheat in this game by default.
Does Squad not come with like a generic anti-cheat that they can just turn on?
No, as far as I'm aware, I think in the example he gave, no, it was not a thing. That just wasn't a thing. Yeah. He said, and also anti-cheat. He says, essentially, is like kind of not that useful because someone will eventually get around it, essentially, and that'll be an issue. And it's like, well, what now, right? Well, the thing that everyone defaults onto is you just ban people. that you fix the situation. You ban people from your servers. The issue is there's no means to ban people. So you can't do that either. So now that being said, I guess the server owner should create, or a modder or whatever should create a means to ban people, right? And that would be the solution. But there's no way of doing that by default. But that seems like a very like kind of a essential. I will consider it, to do that kind of thing. And things like spawn protection could also be modded in, I guess, technically speaking. So these issues are fixable. That is true. And I think the server ping issue is also like fixable as well, right? It's just like, please play on servers close to me so I can play on them as well. That would solve the issue. Now, he did kind of fold in the anti-cheat thing. He said, okay, even though I don't really like this idea, we will develop anti-cheat. And so he's looking into implementing, I think, easy anti-cheat, which is notorious for not working on Linux. So I don't know what's going to happen for me, but that's cool. He's talking about implementing that solution for the game, and I don't know. I mean, at the moment, the game's population is plummeting. It peaked at like 4K players or something like that. Now it's at like 300 something. So we have lost a lot of members at this point. In terms of cheaters, I forgot to say, they are there for sure. The common cheat I've seen is just killing everyone at once, essentially, in the game. It's just kind of dumb. Like, you'll just be playing and everyone just dies at the same time. It's like, okay, I don't know why this was like entertaining. You couldn't even see this happen, probably. But, like, I don't know. I don't get it.
People are very strange.
Yeah, but I feel bad because I feel like it's just ruining the game, right? A lot of the negative reviews are just like a lot of cheaters. It's like, dude, if you just weren't like cheating, like I don't know, these people would be fine, right? They'd have a good time. But unfortunately, that's why we can't have nice free things. And that is an issue with a free game, is that people are more hesitant to cheat in paid games because they have to buy a whole new copy if they get banned. But in a game where it's just free, it's like, you just make a new account and then you can do it again or whatever, So, yeah. In conclusion, the game, the idea is great. It's missing a lot of basic tools. It has potential to be something great, I'm sure. That being said, I don't know if it'll be given a chance by its community as the player base is declining. As a multiplayer, a mainly multiplayer game, the player base is required for success. That being said, as a mod game, it can definitely have a compelling single player that's modded in, right? The default single player is not what you're stuck with. So who knows? Maybe we'll see some really cool mods come out of it and see it, revitalized. So yeah, those are my thoughts.
Pretty cool. Yeah, I never heard of this game, so that was cool.
Yep.
Is there a reason it's called Operation Harsh Doorstop?
I don't know, but I think it's a dumb name. It is one of the most like it does not roll off the tongue at all.
So the interesting thing is like in most military mission names are two words randomly generated put together. They're just randomly generated. So I wonder if they just did that.
Yeah, those are some like doorstop. I mean, like it's a wild
harsh
word.
Doorstop, man. It's a harsh one.
Yeah, that's very, very strange. Very strange.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet.
Well, yeah. I guess that's all I have.
Sweet. Well, glad to see so many people sticking around. We've had a consistent audience on Rumble. Again, shout out to you guys. And we've got our awesome supporters also in the chat as well. So thank you for showing up. And anything you want to take us out?
Sure. If you like this episode, consider subscribing or following or doing whatever you do on whatever platform you're on. You can find wherever we are on mixedmediapodcast.com. Yeah, that's what it is. mixedmediapodcast.com. Where you can find all our links to all our things. And if you want to, discuss with one of us anything we've said today, you can check out our Discord, which is you can also find on mixedmediapodcast.com. And we've been chatting quite a bit, especially about gaming recently. So that's been pretty fun. And thanks for watching.
Oh, shout out to 4 people: 99 Crime, Rob Sharma, Post, who's in the chat right now, and Kai for supporting us for $5 a month at Locals. If you want to join them, you can go to mixedmedia.locals.com. There's going to be an updated perks list there. I want to shout out this time. I want to shout out these people have platforms. So 99 Crime has a YouTube channel, just 99 Crime on YouTube. Post, do you have a
video game?
Oh yeah, you have video game. Yes. If you want, you can drop a link to your Steam page in the chat if you want. Oh yeah, cool. And then Rob does not have socials. Who was the last one?
Kairos. He has a Twitch
channel.
Oh
yeah, so Kai, which is Kai, Kairos, which is Kairos. You search that on Twitch, you'll find him there as well. Want to plug my people who are helping to support us, want to support them as well. So there you go. And there's the link in the chat if you want to check out Saccharine Pale by Post.
If you're not on Discord, get on Discord so you can see the message.
Sweet. All right, well, we'll see you next week at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time.
Yeah, thanks for watching and listening.
See you then.
Look, tell a man no trouble, I don't want beef, man, I just want vibes. Big man like me, no need for the telephone hype. I got too much getting online. One rule, then dead I'm on side. Wrong move, I bet they gon' ride. No need for the telephone hype, nah. No need for the snoozing. Big whip outside, I'm cruising. Big stick inside, no losing. Better watch out for the snake and Judas is. Don't ask them who this is. I bet they know what I'm moving in. I bet I show it into a dim. How you hate and then lose again? How you hating my vibes? Why you wasting my time? Getting hype on my line. Tell a man I don't want feedback, I just want relax. Brand new whip, two-tone, I need that brand new hit. You know, like lean back, brand new bits I live in. We pack, man, you never gon' like us. Get them on sight now, let them on light. That way they know I'm more righteous. Look at my life, I'm living alright. I'm nice, you know I'm alright. Cause looking like Christ, no need for the hype or fight or telephone vipers. No